A few weeks ago, I sold my miter saw and I replaced it with this small table saw. So I'm going to be using this to make a fun lawn game called Kubb. Transition. I'm going to make all the Kubbs from an 8-foot long 4x4, which is 3.5 inches by 3.5 inches. To make it a little more manageable, I'll use a handsaw to break it down into smaller lengths first. You could use a hardwood like oak or maple, and that will be durable but more expensive. Rubber wood is pretty common to see in Kubb sets. But for the casual player making a rough and tumble set, inexpensive pine will work just fine. If you're using construction lumber like this, make sure to get the untreated stuff. The king is conveniently 3.5 inches square, so I just need to cut the 4x4 to length, which is about 12 inches. This blade is only 8.25, so I need to flip the piece and make another pass to cut all the way through. Now I need 10 Kubbs that are 2.75 inches square and 6 inches long. I'll set the fence to 2.75 and run my pieces through on two sides to get them square. There are official tournament measurements for the Kubbs and Batons, but it's a lawn game where you throw pieces of wood at other pieces of wood, so it doesn't need to be absolutely precise. Make them however you make them. Either way, I'll put official measurements in the description. Then I'll cut them down to their 6-inch length. The pith made an appearance in one of the Kubbs, so I remade that one. You can see why you don't want that in a finished item. With a 1/4 inch round over bit, I'll go around all the new sharp edges. If you're still watching, thank you. Don't worry, I'm not asking you to subscribe or buy a Woodworking PDF. At the time of this recording, I've been making these videos for about 2.5 years, and I'm always going back and forth and making small changes to my general format and style, but most of the elements have been about the same since day one. I am curious to get some viewer feedback, whether this is the first or the 20th video of mine you're watching. What level of detail do you like to see in a video like this? How much of an explanation of each step or tool is useful? Leave a comment, I'd love to hear, or if you have any other comments, questions, criticisms, or gripes, let me know. Anyway, back to the actual project. At this point, you can be done with them, but you usually see the king with some sort of crown or other detail added. You could do this however you want, depending on your tools and design choice. I'll be using the table saw for this part. I have 2 stop blocks in place, so I can just make a few passes on all the sides, going as far as I can in each direction. The crown on top is made with the same process. Simple and effective. Using a Dremel sanding bit, I'll quickly round off the freshly cut edges. Next, I'll make the 6 throwing batons. These are pretty easy. I'm just using a 1.75 inch dowel, and I'll cut it into 11.75 inch lengths. Then some sanding to soften the edges. Same deal for the boundary marker stakes. This is a slightly thinner dowel, and I'll cut 4 12-inch pieces. You could do 6 if you want to mark the center line of the field as well. To give them a somewhat pointed end, I'll remove the bulk of the material with a chisel, then even it up with the disc sander. A belt sander would be a good option for this if you have one. Lastly, I'm painting the ends of the stakes for visibility. I'll also paint the top of the king red for a little visual pizzazz. But where to put all this? I'm going to make a simple crate type of container to carry it all around. I'll stack everything up and figure out some dimensions. The two ends are just a 1x10, which I'll cut to length. First I'll chop off some roughly sized pieces, then square them up to their final size on the table saw. I'll give it some handles by drilling 2 large holes, then using a jigsaw to connect them. For the bottom and side slats, I'll use some of the cutoffs from making the Kubbs earlier, plus more of that 1x10 to get all 9 slats that I need. I'll put a round over on the edges, then stick it together with screws. You wouldn't have to put a finish on this, but for the fun of it, I'm going to try some polyacrylic clear top coat and see what happens. Brush it on, let it dry, light sanding, and repeat. I just did 2 coats. And here's our finished Kubb set, complete with storage crate. Now we can play. There are variations in house rules out there, but this will be enough to get you started. Kubb can be played one-on-one or in teams. The object of the game is to throw the batons and knock over all the Kubbs on your opponent's side, followed by the king. Like the 8-ball in pool, knock over the king before all other Kubbs are down, and you immediately lose the game. Use the stakes to mark the corners of the playing area, about 16 feet wide and 26 feet long. A center line divides the field into 2 halves. Line up 5 Kubbs on each baseline and place the king in the center. Standing on their baseline, each team tosses a baton toward the king without knocking it down, and the closest one decides if they want to throw first or choose their side. From their baseline, Team 1 throws 2 batons, then Team 2 throws 4, then 6 batons are used for the rest of the game. Throws must be underhand, and your feet may not pass the baseline at any time. If any Kubbs are knocked over, Team 2 collects them and, from their baseline, throws them onto Team 1's half of the field. These are stood up in place and are called field Kubbs. If a Kubb is thrown out of bounds during this, you have a second chance to throw it. If it goes out of bounds again, the opposing team may place it anywhere on their side, but it must be at least 1 baton length from the king or the corners of the field. Team 2 now throws their batons, but they must knock over all field Kubbs before any baseline Kubbs. If a baseline Kubb is accidentally toppled before all the field Kubbs are down, it is stood back up. If any field Kubbs are left standing, The closest one to the center line becomes the opposing team's new baseline for baton throwing. This temporary advantage line is only for attacking normal Kubbs. Downed Kubbs are still thrown into play from the baseline. Play continues like this until a team has toppled all Kubbs on the opposite side. Then the king must go down. Regardless of any field Kubb advantage line, the king is always attacked with a throw from the baseline. Knock down all the Kubbs on your opponent's side and then the king, and you win. And that is how to make and play the game of Kubb. Have fun, and thanks for watching.